Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you've been here before, I really appreciate it. I honestly do appreciate you keep coming back. And if you are new here, welcome to my channel. Please hit the subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. I have very little creating mojo right now. I don't know what's happened. It's kind of got up and left when it comes to using physical items. I think it's because I've been spending so much time prepping Creep on June, working on kits, working on admin stuff, that this stuff is kind of passing me by. So I thought I would revisit an old video. I did some tassels back in 2018. I think I did 2 videos that year, and they are the only 2 that I've done. And I thought what we would do is just go over some tips and tricks on tassel making. So I've cut all of these to length because it's a very boring process. I will talk about those, but what I want to do first is just talk about the process of making tassels, what you need to think about when you're making tassels, how you're going to make it, what you're going to attach it to, what you're going to attach it with, all of those kind of ins and outs really of tassel making. But the tassels we make today are going to be very basic. I'm going to revisit and do a second video on pimping up your tassels, we'll call that. So first of all, what are you making a tassel for? Are you making them in advance? Are you making them in bulk? Or are you making it for a specific journal? If so, if you're making it for a specific journal, how are you going to make it? How are you going to attach it to your journal? What colour are you going to make it? Does it need to be a certain length? So let's have a little look at that. If you are making tassels in advance and you're making bulk tassels, then you can pick anything you want to make your tassel. If it's just for a quick project, something fun, something to get you in the mood, something to help your mojo along the way, then you don't need to worry about all of those things. But there are things we can still think about for later on. So how are you going to make it? There are several ways to make tassels. And my favourite method is using one of these small rings and a bulldog clip. It's a very, very simple way, especially if you're making it in advance, because there are so many things you can do. Let's just grab this for a minute. So let's say you've made your tassel, you've attached it to this. You can then attach this to your bulldog clip like you would. And then you can attach your bulldog clip to the spine of your journal or to the front cover of your journal with your tassel hanging. So this is a very versatile way to make a tassel and to attach it to your journal. It's my favourite method, but we also have other methods here. I think I used one of these in one of the previous videos I did. So you can attach your tassel directly to, this is one of those little I think this is also kind of a bulldog clip, paper fastener, whatever you want to call it. So you could attach it directly to one of these. You'd then again put that onto the spine or the front cover of your journal, and then you would flip that down. I also have some D-rings. These are a fantastic way of creating a tassel. If you're using these though, you have to think ahead, because you would need to attach this to the spine of your journal before you probably bound the inside, before you put your book block into your cover. So this one is a think ahead kind of way to make a tassel. But all you would do, let's say for example, you would attach, you'd make your tassel, hang it off your little D-ring, attach this to your spine with maybe a couple of brads or split pins, and then you would glue your book block in and it would cover up those split pins. So that's a great way to do it, but like I said, you do need to think ahead if you're doing that. We've got a couple of paper clips here. Well, I have one, I have 2. A couple of paper clips here. You could make a tassel and attach it to a paper clip. However, it's not really suitable for attaching to the cover of a journal. but they could make cute kind of tassels to hang off the bottom of your journal, and I think I might make one of those during this video. And of course your claw clip, you could hang a tassel off here. This is another very popular way to make a tassel, and then you can attach it to, again, probably a bulldog clip or a jump ring, something like that, to attach it to your journal. You could also use let me find one. Yeah, I don't know where they are, but you can have you can get these little split pins. Oh, here they are. So you can get little split pins like this that have a ring attached. So if you've got something like that attached to your journal spine, again, this is a think in advance kind of method, you could always hang a tassel off that. Now these ones I've got are, I'm going to say next to useless, because they don't have any strength at all. And I personally wouldn't recommend these. These were an Amazon purchase, and of course in the picture they looked a lot bigger. So they are some ways you can make your tassel. You can attach your tassel directly to some of these, and then you could also attach them to your journal. Those are things you need to think about, unless you are just making bulk tassels for fun, and I would definitely recommend something like that. So let's talk about colour and length. Now, your journal height is really going to determine the length of your tassel. You would hang this onto your journal, and say your journal has an 8-inch cover, you wouldn't really want your tassel to be dangling too low past your spine. You might do if that's the look you're going for. So all you need to think about is cutting your threads, twines, sari silk twice the length of the tassel you want to make. Nice and simple, because it's just going to be folded in half. So I have cut all of mine roughly 14 inches. So I just literally cut them a little bit longer than my ruler. What else do you need? Now, I would absolutely recommend wax linen thread to tie your tassel. You can use other threads. Of course, you can use embroidery floss. You can use just a straightforward twine like this. Any of that would work, but this gives you a little bit more manoeuvrability. I can't actually believe I got that word out. And what you want to do is you want to be able to tie it and make sure it's not going to slip. Now, this stuff here, which is a wax linen thread, you can see if I fold that, it pretty much stays like that. What can you use to make your tassels? What can you use? I use a combination of things. When I buy, this is these are chiffon scraps that I purchased from Yarn Yarn. These are sari scraps. Again, I purchased them from Yarn Yarn, and they are brilliant because you just get a whole heap of stuff and you don't know what you're going to get, but it's always really colourful. This is seam binding. Seam binding is another good one. Any ribbon, any lace. Things like this, eyelash trim, that's another great one, and it bulks out your tassel. This is just an old cotton sheet that I screwed up, popped into a bag, wet, and then added some distress inks. But what I did is I just laid them out, cut them all to length. They've all got higgledy-piggledy now, but they are cut to roughly the same length. You can buy devices to make tassels. Which Crafter You Do has made a video recently using one. So go and check out Kerry's video. I'm going to pull off a piece of wax thread and I'm going to make it 2.5 times the length of my my bits. 2.5 times the length of my bits. And I'm going to grab the two ends and roughly fold that in half. Just leave that to the side. Then I'm going to grab my ring. I'm going to tuck it underneath my threads. I'm going to roughly fold that in half, even them out, holding my ring, and you can see that tassel is now really taking shape. Now what you might want to do is just have a little fiddle around with the tops until you get something that you're happy to see, and you can twist it to get the look you want. You don't have to be too precious about it, it's not a big deal. And now I have this in my left hand, or if you are left-handed you might want to hold it in your right hand, because with your dominant hand you want to grab the centre of your wax thread and just hold that in place. And you can see what I've done there, just got it there. I'm going to take one side of that and I'm going to wrap it round 3 times. Then I'm going to switch to the other side and I'm going to wrap that round in the opposite direction 3 times. Now I'm going to lay my tassel down. This is obviously quite long, but I'm going to tuck that through and tie that. I'm going to tie that in a double knot. Then I'm going to bring it the other side of my tassel and I'm going to tie another double knot. We will use later when we do the next video. But there we have our first basic tassel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my 2 pieces of wax thread and move those out of the way. I'm going to make sure all of my pieces are fairly straight. Grab my scissors and then give this a little haircut. But that's now reasonably straight. Everything's roughly the same length. We can take our bulldog clip, open that ring up, pop it on there, and that is now ready if you want to make a very basic tassel just to attach to the top of your journal. Trimmed the ends off of my threads. I've cut my wax thread. I'm going to be using one of these, and I'm also going to be using a jump ring. Now because I'm using a jump ring, I'm actually going to be putting this tassel together a little bit differently. I'm going to be using a jump ring. This is a fairly strong and a reasonably large jump ring. I think it's about 1 centimetre. Now I bought these from eBay a really long time ago, about 4 years ago. If they are still available, I will pop the link in the description box, but obviously you can search strong 1 centimetre jump rings wherever you are. You should find some. So I'm just going to put those over to the side for a minute, and I'm going to take my threads. I'm going to grab my wax linen thread and I'm just going to lay it down underneath my threads here. Take my pieces, fold them roughly in half. Now obviously I've got a few shorter bits here, and now I'm going to have something like this. So I'm going to tie this and I'm going to wrap it twice because we don't have anything holding this down now, and I'm going to pull that tight. So now we have something like that. I'm going to tie it in another knot. And I've just realised I have made a bit of a boo-boo. I'm going to thread my jump ring through here. I'm not going to risk opening my jump ring at this stage, but that's now threaded onto there, and I'm going to tie another double knot, but I'm going to wrap that twice like that, and then one more double knot. So now we have our thread, our fibres and our jump ring. This particular time I shouldn't have made this quite as large. This is not when I needed a really large piece, because this is going to be part of the tassel. But I am going to cut that off just a little bit longer than my tassel, and I'm going to try and use a shorter piece. Now you would really need a bigger piece, and you would do the same, what we did here you would do here. However, I made a bit of a boo-boo, so Tassel 101, not the best Tassel 101 video. Now, in theory, you would have a nice long piece. This would actually be the long piece that's attached here. This, you would need a piece this length. So I've got my threads the wrong way round. So that means what I'm going to have to do is cut mine. I'm going to cut them fairly close to the knot, but not completely. Give that a push and you can barely see it. You can barely see that that's actually... You can barely see that. But now we have this jump ring here, so we need to spin it round so the piece of the jump ring that opens is not close to your tassel. Take my claw clip. This one obviously requires a few more tools because you need some pliers. And now you twist the rings away from each other so they are like that. You always twist them away from each other. Attach my little claw, twist that closed, and that is a different type of tassel. How to be able to hang that onto your bulldog clip. So that's two tassels. Two tassels. Take one on here. We're going to put one directly onto our little bulldog clip. This needs to be fairly thin. So let's grab the piece of ribbon. I'm going to flap that down and I'm going to start threading them through. You probably want to do one at a time. Not worried about getting it even as yet. Just see how much we can get in here. I think that's as much as I can do. So I've got those three left and I'll leave those. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. I'm going to just do this 2.5 length of my tassel. So we're going to pop that on to what might be the spine of our journal and we'll hang that down. Now you do have a little gap here. You do get that little gap. That is our third tassel. Right, I'm going to do a very small one. Not quite sure how this is going to work. I've never done one onto a paper clip before, so it might go horribly wrong. A weenie paper clip. What we could do is wrap something round here to hold that tassel in place. Let's say we want to slide this onto the side of a journal page. So let's see if this will work. Never tried it, so I don't know. I'm going to leave a bit of an end. I'm going to attach that. I'm going to wrap this around my paper clip. I don't want to pull it too tight because I don't want to pull my paper clip too tight. I'm going to take this to what I think I would call the back. Right, I'm going to fold that over like that. Hold that in place for a second. Add a little bit more glue. Okay, so this is something I don't do very often. I'm going to put a button here and I'm going to sew. Right, so I've got my button. Before I tie this off, I'm just going to explain what I did. I actually used my awl to make 2 holes in that fabric because it was way too thick to get my needle through. But I am going to tie a knot here. So it's not going to look the best from the back. If you were concerned about how that looks at the back, you can always put a second button. I now have a tassel tab, which is not perfect, which I didn't even know we were going to make a tassel tab. It doesn't look great from the back, but it's rustic and you could absolutely put that on the page of a journal and it could hang like so, looking all pretty and tassely. Things have to be taking a little bit slow around here at the moment, especially until my mojo comes back a little bit more. But we've got our accidental tassel tab. We have our tassel attached to that bulldog clip. We've got a tassel attached to one of the claw clips, and we have a tassel attached to a ring and a bulldog clip. So I hope that's given you a few tassel ideas and some tips, and I hope some of that will be helpful. Probably not much of it, but I'm actually loving this tassel tab. So anyway, I will see you in the next video really soon. Take care.